Houston, Texas, 1985. The humid summer air was thick with tension and ambition. Behind the doors of boardrooms and energy conference halls, a new name was quietly being etched into the future of American business. Enron. Kenneth Lay, a charming and highly educated executive, had just pulled off what many in the industry called a master stroke. The merger of two gas companies, Houston Natural Gas and Internorth. To the public, it seemed like just another corporate shuffle. But to Lay, it was the beginning of something far more ambitious. He didn't want to lead just another gas company. He wanted to transform the way energy itself was bought and sold. Under his leadership, Enron began to break away from traditional models. It wasn't content with just pumping gas through pipes. It wanted to trade energy like stocks, capitalizing on market fluctuations, forecasting prices, and creating entirely new ways to profit from what had always been a static, regulated business. And the vision wasn't just big, it was revolutionary. When Jeffrey Skilling, a brilliant consultant from McKinsey & Company, entered the picture, the company's transformation truly accelerated. Skilling brought a radical idea, a system where future profits could be counted today, numbers could be molded, projections could become assets. The press hailed Enron as innovative, daring, even glamorous. Its headquarters rose above downtown Houston like a monument to modern capitalism. Enron was no longer just an energy company. It was the Google of electricity, before Google even existed. By the late 90s, Enron stock soared. Wall Street worshipped it. Business schools studied it. Employees believed in it. Inside Enron, there was an electric buzz, a sense of invincibility. Every quarter brought new successes, every headline a new accolade. But behind closed doors, numbers were being shifted, debt hidden, and ethics quietly bent. Yet on the surface, the world saw only one thing, a gleaming corporate star ascending fast. And no one, not investors, not the government, not even the employees, had any idea what was truly powering Enron's meteoric rise. Houston, 1996. The glass towers of Enron glistened like a fortress of innovation. Inside, a different kind of energy surged, not through pipelines, but through spreadsheets, forecasts, and a growing obsession with quarterly numbers. Enron was expanding rapidly into electricity, coal, telecom, even weather trading. The ambition was limitless. Executives no longer wanted to just lead energy markets, they wanted to create markets where none had existed before. But growth, at this pace, came at a cost. Inside the finance department, a soft-spoken man named Andrew Fastow was building a secret architecture, complex partnerships and shadow companies that few understood. To outsiders, Enron was a cash machine. Inside, it was bleeding debt. And that's where the magic happened. With Jeffrey Skilling's support, Fastow set up a maze of special-purpose entities, shell companies with cryptic names like Chuco and LJM. Their purpose? To absorb Enron's losses and make the balance sheet sparkle. It was legal, technically, but it was also a dangerous illusion. Enron had pioneered the use of mark-to-market accounting, allowing the company to record estimated future profits as if they were money in the bank. If Enron signed a 10-year deal expected to make $50 million, that full $50 million showed up on the books, immediately. Never mind if the deal would ever pay off. Never mind if the market would change. On paper, Enron looked unstoppable. Investors bought in. Stock analysts praised its innovation. Fortune magazine named it America's most innovative company, 6 years in a row. Employees? They felt like rock stars. Many poured their life savings into Enron stock, confident they were building not just a company, but a legacy. But behind the buzz and billion-dollar projections, numbers were massaged, liabilities buried, and truth quietly distorted. Executives lived like kings, flying private jets, throwing lavish parties, and watching their wealth multiply with each passing quarter. Yet, in the shadows of all this glitter, cracks were beginning to form. A quiet memo from an internal auditor raised concerns. A skeptical journalist started asking questions. And a few employees began to whisper, what if the numbers weren't real? But the machine was moving too fast, too powerful, too admired, and Enron wasn't about to let anything or anyone slow it down. Autumn 2000, Enron headquarters, Houston. The mood inside Enron's shimmering skyscraper was still confident, but beneath the surface, a quiet unease had begun to spread. A mid-level executive, known for her sharp mind and calm demeanor, was writing something unusual. Sharon Watkins, a longtime Enron employee, had seen the numbers. She had worked close to CFO Andrew Fastow, and something wasn't adding up. The partnerships, the off-the-books debt, the inflated profits. It didn't take a whistle to recognize a ticking bomb. Sharon penned an internal memo to CEO Kenneth Lay. I am incredibly nervous that we will implode in a wave of accounting scandals. Lay saw it and chose silence. To the public, Enron remained golden. The stock was soaring at over $90 a share. Employees cheered during meetings. Bonuses were flying. And Jeffrey Skilling? He was still being hailed as a genius. But behind closed doors, something had shifted in Skilling. The pressure was building. The lies were stacking. He suddenly announced a surprise resignation in August 2001, citing personal reasons. The market blinked, but only briefly. Kenneth Lay returned as CEO. He reassured investors. The fundamentals of our business are stronger than ever, he said with a practiced smile. But the fundamentals were a house of cards, and someone had just struck a match. That someone was a reporter at Fortune magazine. In a now famous article titled, Is Enron Overpriced?, journalist Bethany McLean raised a dangerous question. How exactly does Enron make its money? It was a simple question, and no one, not analysts, not executives, not even board members, could answer it clearly. Wall Street began to fidget. Rumors buzzed in trading rooms. Investors started rechecking the numbers. Some quietly sold their shares. But the most dangerous threat was still invisible. The SEC had begun to sniff around. An investigation was underway, and suddenly, Fastow, the quiet architect of Enron's financial labyrinth, was looking less like a mastermind and more like a liability. Inside Enron, phones rang late into the night. Lawyers were summoned. Documents were shredded. What had been whispers in the dark were now growing into echoes. October 2001, Wall Street, New York. The air was tense. The unthinkable was becoming unavoidable. Enron stock, once a darling of the market, had begun to plunge. Investors who had once scrambled to buy in were now desperate to get out. The company that had symbolized American innovation was unraveling before their eyes. It started with a quiet restatement. Enron announced it would revise its financial statements from 1997 to 2000, admitting it had overstated earnings by over $600 million and concealed more than $1 billion in debt. To Wall Street, that wasn't just bad news, it was betrayal. Confidence cracked like glass. As questions intensified, CFO Andrew Fastow, the mastermind behind the shadowy partnerships, was fired. More documents surfaced. revealing how Fasto had personally profited millions from the deals he designed to help Enron. The SEC ramped up its investigation. Credit rating agencies, once loyal, downgraded Enron's bonds to junk status. And then came the death blow. Dynegy, a rival energy company, had agreed to buy Enron in a desperate last-ditch merger. But after getting a closer look at Enron's finances, Dynegy walked away, leaving Enron to face its fate alone. The company was out of time. On December 2, 2001, Enron filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. In the blink of an eye, the seventh largest company in the United States, once valued at $70 billion, had vanished. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Over 4,000 employees lost their jobs. Many discovered their retirement savings, locked in Enron stock, were now worth pennies. Some lost everything. Anger boiled. Grief turned to rage. Pensioners, truck drivers, receptionists, engineers, people who had believed in Enron's mission, who had been told they were part of a revolution, stood in line to clear out their desks with cardboard boxes and shattered futures. Meanwhile, the same executives who had championed the rise and fed the illusion had cashed out millions before the crash. America watched in disbelief and asked the question no one wanted to hear out loud. How did no one stop this? 2002, Washington, D.C. America had seen corporate collapses before, but Enron was different. This wasn't just a business failure, it was a betrayal of trust on a national scale. Politicians demanded answers. Journalists uncovered layers of deceit. Citizens who had never cared about energy markets suddenly found themselves asking, how did this happen? The halls of Congress buzzed with urgency. Enron executives were subpoenaed. One by one, they appeared before lawmakers. Some tight-lipped, others defensive, all under intense scrutiny. But the storm wasn't just political. It was criminal. Federal prosecutors launched one of the largest corporate investigations in U.S. history. The focus: the executives who ran the scheme, the accounting firms that signed off, and the banks that looked the other way. At the center of it all was Jeffrey Skilling. The once celebrated CEO who had promised to reinvent the energy industry now faced a federal indictment. He denied wrongdoing, but prosecutors painted a very different picture, one of manipulation, arrogance, and willful deception. Then there was Kenneth Lay, Enron's founder. Calm and grandfatherly in public, Lay insisted he had no knowledge of the fraud beneath him. But evidence told a different story. Lay had encouraged employees to buy stock while selling off his own. The irony was gut-wrenching. And Andrew Fasto, the architect of the hidden partnerships, he flipped. In exchange for a lighter sentence, he cooperated, exposing every detail of how the company had misled the world. His spreadsheets became evidence. His words became weapons. In 2006, Skilling was convicted on 19 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and insider trading. He was sentenced to 24 years in prison, later reduced. Lay was also found guilty, but died of a heart attack just weeks before his sentencing. Fasto served 6 years behind bars. But the reckoning didn't stop there. The scandal reached Enron's accounting firm, Arthur Andersen, one of the Big Five. They were accused of obstructing justice by shredding documents related to Enron. The result? A guilty verdict and a corporate death sentence. The firm collapsed, putting 85,000 people out of work. The ripple effect of Enron's fall spread across the business world. Trust had been shattered. Investors felt betrayed, and ordinary workers, many of whom had never stepped foot in a boardroom, had paid the heaviest price. Justice had begun to take its course, but the damage was done, and America was ready to ensure it would never happen again. 2003 and beyond, a new corporate era begins. The collapse of Enron sent a shockwave through the very core of capitalism. It wasn't just the downfall of a company, it was the unraveling of an illusion that numbers never lied, that markets could regulate themselves, and that success was always real if it looked good on paper. In boardrooms across America, panic turned into policy. Lawmakers moved quickly. In 2002, Congress passed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, a sweeping reform designed to prevent future corporate fraud. The rules were clear: no more hidden debts, no more unchecked accounting tricks. CEOs and CFOs were now personally responsible for the accuracy of their company's financial reports. Auditing standards tightened. Transparency became a new business mantra. But for thousands of former Enron employees, it was too late. Their pensions were gone, their careers disrupted, their faith in the system deeply scarred. And yet, some fought back. Whistleblower Sharon Watkins, once just a voice in the background, became a national symbol of corporate courage. Her actions inspired a new generation to speak up when something felt wrong, no matter how big the lie or powerful the institution. In universities, Enron became a permanent case study. Professors taught its rise and fall as a warning. Students studied its financials not for success, but for the subtle signs of deception. Its name became synonymous with greed, failure, and unchecked ambition. And still, even in disgrace, Enron changed the world. Its innovations, energy trading, market deregulation, and risk management, didn't vanish. Many were adopted by other firms, some evolved, others were quietly buried, but none were ever trusted in the same way again. Jeffrey Skilling would one day walk free, older, quieter. Andrew Fastow would speak publicly about his crimes, warning others not to repeat them. The towers of Enron were sold off, its logo dismantled, its name removed from the skyline, and yet, in whispers, in articles, in courtrooms and classrooms, Enron never truly disappeared. It lives on as a symbol, a cautionary tale of what happens when image becomes more important than truth, and when those in power believe they're untouchable. Because in the end, Enron wasn't brought down by markets, competitors, or regulations. It was brought down by its own reflection.